Coming up on this episode of It's Called Soccer, we catch up with US men's national team legend Cobi Jones to talk LA Galaxy, David Beckham, and Cobi's time in the Premier League.
Gary could probably tell you, No.
Get it, kick him.
The chaps from the Give and Go podcast join us to give us a few hot takes on the Major League Soccer season.
If he had played the whole season, I think he could have gotten like 40, 45 goals.
Christina Unkel joins us for Ref Watch to discuss the dismissal of English referee David Coote.
For me, I was going to say, and I did say, that he was going to get released.
And we discuss Tottenham's troubles, Chelsea's charge towards the top, and Cole Palmer.
What he's going on to become, no one could have ever expected, and I certainly didn't. He's exceptional.
That's all to come on It's Called Soccer. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Gary, to this episode of It's Called Soccer, brought to you by AllState. Gary, I feel like I saw you yesterday, and I did. And the day before, and the day before that. New York City, we recorded some stuff for the podcast, and then you came into NBC, which was brilliant fun. I feel like about 2:00 yesterday afternoon, you sort of sat back in your chair, took your jacket off, loosened up your tie, and was like, I've hit a wall. How are you feeling today, my friend?
I'm pretty good, actually. The flight was good. I feel like in about an hour and a half, I will go again.
There's a few moments I feel like, maybe we could work on, maybe improvement. One being, we sit there for an hour rehearsing the show. So you're in that chair for an hour before. Actually, this is a little bit like Cucurella, who's out there warming up in those boots, right? He knows those boots are dodgy. Yeah. He still starts the game with them. You knew you had an hour of rehearsal in that chair, but yet we go on air Sunday morning. I'm asking you a question about Dan Ashworth. You're answering it. I go to Tim for his first answer on Sunday morning. And while Tim is answering, you are literally, if anyone's watching, he's doing this with his he's up, he's down, he's up. He's like, I'm in, I'm out, I'm back in again. I'm like, Tim's trying to answer the question. What is happening? You've been on that chair for an hour.
Do you know something also? Whilst you're talking and doing your links to camera, I'm also doing your countdowns for you, messing around. I'm just... Yeah, to be honest, it's just... I also don't... rehearsals are a waste of time to me.
Well, it's not really for you, though. I think it's for everybody else. Cameramen.
I get that. No, but I don't listen, so I don't know what's coming next. I've not adjusted my chair. I'm still getting myself ready.
You've not. I know.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a, ill-disciplined broadcaster.
I mean, a little bit of live chair adjustment is not the greatest, but it was fun. But you did the promos great. You did the promos once again beautifully.
Snoop Dogg and the crew for the season finale. It'll take place over 2 nights this coming week. Don't miss The Voice season 26 finale, Monday and Tuesday on NBC and streaming next day on Peacock. I can't wait. Doing most of your work for you, basically.
You did, and I appreciate that.
Actually, increasing the ratings of The Golf and The Voice on NBC.
So, Gary, your AllState moment of the week. We were there watching it together yesterday in the studio. What an insane game. Tottenham-Chelsea, go.
Yeah, Tottenham-Chelsea. Tottenham 2-0 up and end up losing the game. That's the second time I've been to the US to NBC, and on both Super Sundays, they've been 2-0 up, once against Brighton, once against Chelsea, and they end up giving up the lead and lose the game. So, well done to Chelsea, but obviously it's a problem that Tottenham have to fix pretty quickly.
At half-time, when they were winning 2-1, Tottenham, both you and Tim Howard thought Chelsea were going to come back to win this. And it's funny because I've been listening to people on British radio this morning who all said that they felt the same as well watching the game. So if you felt that, Postecoglou surely felt not safe. His stubbornness is what is holding this team back, no?
Manchester City, not the current Manchester City, which obviously over the last couple of years has been a lot stronger, a lot more robust and physically better with a big back four and sort of Rodri in midfield, Haaland up front. But going back to that very diminutive Manchester City team that won the league first for Pep Guardiola with the likes of Sané, Sterling, Aguero, David Silva and De Bruyne, that team did carry on playing the same way and dominated possession in the last parts of matches. And when they went up, they didn't change. So we have seen examples of where teams like Barcelona, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola has got it right now. Ange Postecoglou is out of that school. He thinks that basically dominating the game, playing his way, is something that can obviously happen throughout the entirety of a game. There were factors yesterday. I think him losing Romero, obviously lost Van der Ven late on as well, but losing Romero, I think, in the first part of the game is a big problem for him. And I think he's got a big drop between Romero and the next guy that comes in. Because when you see that Sancho cutting off that right-hand side, Dragusin and the other players on that side of the field, I mean, I think Romero would have got out to that. That's the type of thing that he would easily deal with. So, look, there are questions around Ange Postecoglou. I've watched Nuno, Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte at Spurs for the last 6 years or whatever it's been. And I have to say it's been pretty drab at times, the football. Every time I watch Spurs play, Rebecca, you're the same, I would imagine. We said it yesterday. What better team to have at 4:30 on a Sunday afternoon than Tottenham Hotspur? They're great to watch. They played... The games I've watched Tottenham this season have been the best games. And you think about them winning at Manchester City 4-0. They win at Old Trafford 3-0. Brighton, it's 2-0 up and they lose 3-2. They take part in great games of football. I'm not saying that they're always great for Spurs because they're losing some of those matches, but I don't underestimate the importance of playing great football and being entertaining, because it's what Ange Postecoglou wants to do. It's what Tottenham wanted. They do need to defend better. And honestly, yesterday, Rebecca, those challenges by Bissouma and Sarr were absolutely ridiculous. That's nothing to do with the style of play of Ange Postecoglou. They're absolutely ridiculous decisions, those challenges. To actually go into the back of players when they're going away from goal, or to slide in when you're managing Caicedo running down the left channel, is just a nonsense. That to me is nothing to do with style of play or Ange Postecoglou or stubbornness. It's just reckless and really poor defending. So yes, maybe there do need to be a little bit of game management introduced, but the rashness, the poor defending, the poor decision making on the pitch is bad.
Cole Palmer, right, I actually think might be a different species from everybody else. Because I looked again at the Panenka. That's ridiculous. Yeah. He doesn't have nerves. Like, I don't think he actually possesses worry, concern, nerves. He just, like, takes the mickey, doesn't he? He's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch him in the interviews, he just looks like...
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever, yeah, just what I do, you know what I mean? It's exceptional talent, beautiful to watch. He's a star in a group of very good players. £40 million. I think at the time I didn't question him coming to Chelsea. I questioned them signing another wide player, thinking that they had this batch of wide players and players that were being accumulated. They signed Mudryk and all those players, Madueke, and you're thinking, how many more do they need to sign of this type? What he's gone on to become, no one could have ever expected, and I certainly didn't. He's exceptional. And to get that level of precision and class and the final pass, the right touch in someone who's only really 2 years in doing this is amazing.
I've got to ask you, because Chelsea have a really interesting run coming up. They are playing, their next 7 in the Premier League are straightforward. No big six. Palace, Bournemouth, Ipswich, Leicester, fine. I said yesterday, I think on the show, I think they could be topped by the turn of the year. They have to be taken seriously. They are, you said it after the show yesterday, you'll say it again now, right? They have to be now. They're in the title race, out and out, second.
Yeah,
right
I agree with Maresca.
4 points behind.
I agree with Maresca. They're not going to win it, but they're definitely in it, because the fact of the matter is, with these games they've got coming up, if they win them, as you say, I think there's only one team they're playing in the top 10 in the next 6, 7, 8 games, and I think that team is 9th. So they've got a real run of fixtures that you would think they're going to amass a lot of points in. And yeah, I mean, they're going to potentially get close to Liverpool. Whether they'll be topped by New Year's Day, which is a bold statement from you, but if it comes true, you're going to look very clever.
I'd be amazing.
Yeah,
and I've got an alarm on my phone. So on January the 1st, I'm going to get a little reminder just to double check, and we won't talk about it again if they're not. But let me just tell you the games, because I should have told you these. So it's Brentford. That could be hard, but Chelsea at home and Brentford away are terrible. Everton, Fulham, Ipswich, Palace, Bournemouth and Wolves before they play Man City on January 25th. So that's a decent run, isn't it?
It's the perfect run in that winter stretch if you're in great form, they shouldn't be disrespecting those teams because they're all fighting for points, and things can obviously flare up in the Premier League at any point. But there's no excuses for them not to get closer to Liverpool in that period with the way in which they're playing, the way in which he's rotating the squad. And if they are closer than they currently are come New Year's Day, they won't be able to deny the questions, the expectations building. But I won't be plowing pressure on them saying, oh, they've got to win the league now. Or Chelsea, this is well ahead of schedule from where I thought they were last year. I mean, this is massively... The job that Maresca's done is incredible. The way in which he stabilised everything is something that, I mean, the Chelsea ownership must be thinking, wow, this is exactly what we wanted when we appointed this guy. But they wouldn't have expected it to be so quick, I'm sure. And you're right, they will be in with a shout of the league if they get closer into January. But I still think they'll fall short.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is in association with AllState. Some people just know they could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance by checking AllState first. It is always smart to check first, and here's why. Like checking you've got the spelling right before you get your club's Latin motto tattooed to your arm. Or checking that you've filled up with gas and that you've packed that spare tyre before you set out on the epic road trip to the big game. You see, I feel like these are good. And what if you booked that dream vacation before you check the date of the cup final? That would be a total nightmare. So, as I said, checking first is smart. So check AllState first for a quote that could save you hundreds of dollars. You're in good hands with AllState. This content is intended for audiences in the US only. Savings vary, terms apply. AllState Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois. This episode of It's Called Soccer is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Dealing with wireless providers used to drive me mad. Those hidden fees, surprise charges, it was a different shock with every new bill. But with Mint Mobile, what you see is exactly what you get. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month for a 3-month plan, they mean it. No tricks, no sneaky stuff, just straightforward savings. Say goodbye to those jaw-dropping bills from overpriced wireless plans. With Mint Mobile, you'll get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. That includes high-speed data and unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network. And switching couldn't be easier. You can keep your current phone and bring your number and all your contacts. No hassle, just better service for a fraction of the price. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/ICS. That is mintmobile.com/ICS. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/ICS. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Now joining us on It's Called Soccer, our former FIFA referee. Always lovely to have her, Christina Unkel. Thank you, Christina, for joining us. We were going to talk about some of these situations at the weekend until the breaking news a few hours ago that David Coote's contract as a referee with the Premier League, with the PGMOL, has been terminated with immediate effect. Part of the quote from the statement, his actions, the PGMOL say, were found to be in serious breach of the provisions of his employment contract. They continue to say they're committed to his welfare, but his position was untenable. For those listening and watching who have forgotten, a number of things have come up. The first being that video that got leaked onto social media where he was very rude about Jurgen Klopp, the former Liverpool manager, which was from a few years ago. Then there was a video which purports to him appearing to snort a white powder during the Euros. And then there was a leaked WhatsApp message, which would appear to be between him and another person over a yellow card, I think in a West Brom Leeds match back in 2019. And the insinuation is that he had told the person on the other end of this message to put money on a yellow card being given at this time in the game to this player. It happened, and therefore this person won money. All of these, of course, are allegations because the PGMOL has not yet said anything about any of those. All they've done is sack him. Christina, your reaction?
Yeah, I know we talked about this when it first came out, breaking, and for me, I was going to say, and I did say, that he was going to get released, that inevitably that the results would be that this referee cannot take center of a pitch or be involved in any game at a high level here in Premier League. Right now, it's up to UEFA and FIFA to determine whether or not they would, affect his officiating badge on that side of the things. And the reasoning for that is, as you mentioned, right, we have, whether it's a binding contract because there's a morality clause that could be in his employment agreement with PJ Moles. There was a brief statement to that without them getting into too much detail. But there's also this other, it's unwritten rule that we as officials have to be as neutral judges as possible, not bring this type of scrutiny on us, and anything that can appear to or be impartial is something that we have to avoid. So me, ultimately, not surprised by it whatsoever. It's not something that you would want to be managing from a high level top, and it puts kind of more of a black eye on the community itself. So not surprised.
Gary, for you, which is the worst offence?
I think the third one that you mentioned around the "I hope you lumped on," that's the one that, if it is as it appears, I think would be the most serious situation for a referee, because that appears to be sort of pointing towards the booking of a player and telling someone to obviously bet on it. Now, if that's happened, he's no leg to stand on whatsoever. He's nowhere to go. Let's be really clear. But obviously, David Coote at this moment in time, I think, has got a right to reply to the sacking and the releasing of the Premier League. He can appeal it.
He can appeal, yeah.
He can appeal, and let's see if he appeals, and we don't know whether these three things will obviously appear as we see them at this moment in time. But that third one is the one that I feel, if we take it at face value, is the one that would need most explaining.
True, because if the third one is true, and we have to keep saying it because we don't have any evidence or any conclusion to it, Christina, it's not just about him, right? It's not just about... that is wide-ranging. English refereeing for years has held itself to such a high standard of integrity. We've often looked at other countries and, oh, look, there's spot fixing and match fixing and it's corrupt there and it's corrupt there. But English refereeing has got loads of integrity. If this is true and he's done that, people automatically, Christina, go, well, if he's done that once, has he done that more than once? And if he's done that, has he done that? And has he... hang on, these referees have got a hard enough job as it is. That is a real danger, Christina, right?
It is a real danger. And I mean, we see it too, right? There's a German referee, Felix Weyer, when he was 18 years old or something. He was on a match where the center referee was match fixing, and he got some nominal amount, but it's more to keep silent, right? It took a long time for him to come. He's a FIFA referee. He was at the men's Euros, right? He's been at men's World Cup, but even every time he gets assigned a match, and mind you, I think that was over 15 years ago, that always comes out in the media. Should he be assigned? How do we know he's for true, right? How do you know he's not bought, right? He's been bought once. Why wouldn't he be bought twice, right? And that's Felix Weyer over 15 years ago. So that's not going to end here, especially with kind of how much focus there is on Premier League referees and the PGMO referees. And I agree with you all. Right, the third thing, if it's true, is a sackable offense, standing alone. We have plenty of education, training. Even from when you begin at the grassroots level, they make comment to, like, also don't be bribed, right? Not that you would hope that no one's bribing at an under 10 game, but you never know. I've seen parents and I've seen coaches at that level. But the other two offenses, we all have those where either we ourselves have made a mistake and thankfully it's not been caught on camera, right? In this day and age where everything is caught, and or we've had colleagues, right? So I kind of equate it to, like, Gary, if you had a teammate, right, in Man United, who made some mistakes and ended up making some bad life decisions and choices, but they're a good person. We have this brotherhood, we have this sisterhood, we have this humanhood where we want to, continue to ensure that this person still continues. And right now, we all know in the referee community that from a psychological standpoint, he's going to be going through a lot. He's lost his identity. He's lost his career. He's lost his connections. He's lost who he is through his actions. I know he came out with a statement recently, right, saying my off-field antics, right, are not appropriate in that respect. But at the same time, I am glad, and I do know the head of refereeing, Howard Webb, they will make their efforts to ensure that he does have some continuing support when it comes to medical and therapy and whatnot. But it's really important right now for the referee community internally who's worked with him to also step up and provide him support, right? Even though in the situation it is an appropriate offense to sack him.
Christina, next time let's hope we talk about something a little bit lighter. Until then, thank you for joining us on Ref Watch. Reynoso and Soltero welcoming you onto It's Called Soccer live as well for the first time, because thank you so much for keeping us up to date over the last few weeks with the playoffs. We've been listening to you guys. Now you're here in real life and we can ask you, because you both got it right. You both went Galaxy. Galaxy won the cup. They are MLS champions. What did you both make of the game?
I thought it was destiny fulfilled, truly. When you look at the numbers, they speak for themselves. The LA Galaxy have had the most goals scored in playoff history in the MLS. The front four, Ricky Puig, Joveljic, Joseph Paintel, and Gabriel Peck, the first front four ever in MLS history to have 10-plus goals and 10-plus assists. And even without Ricky Puig, which we could talk about in a second, LA Galaxy have the most effective offense in the league. So all that culminating into the LA Galaxy lifting another trophy. It's been 10 years, but I do think this was destiny fulfilled. It's completely deserved. LA Galaxy is the best team in the MLS.
Yeah, actually, I completely agree with that. Within the first 20 minutes we saw with Paintel scoring a goal and Joveljic scoring a goal, going up 2-0, and then ultimately having the defensive fortitude to hold that line, even though they did concede and it got close, they pulled the result out. Galaxy, the best team in the MLS, well deserved.
Guys, what was your favourite moment of the season?
Ooh, man, I think for me, it has to be in this playoff run that the LA Galaxy went on. The story, the narrative of Ricky Puig tearing his ACL and playing on it for 30 minutes, apparently.
Dude, I don't know how. I really, when I saw that.
Guys, not just that. How about when he ran on, when they thought they'd blown up for a free kick and they thought they'd won the cup, and Puig is running on with his shirt on back to front and his ACL, and you're like, slow down. First of all, they haven't won. Also, you've got an ACL.
Exactly. And so for me, my favorite moment was him assisting Joveljic in that semifinal match, a tense game against Seattle Sounders. They needed a goal desperately in that game, and they got it through Ricky Puig assisting Joveljic.
Yeah, and for me, honestly, I've just been such a fan of the Galaxy this season. My favorite moment was actually seeing LAFC lose to Seattle Sounders, just because most people had LA winning that match. But for Seattle, they're just so conservative, so defensive. To beat them in that match was just bittersweet for me. I absolutely loved it.
So would that constitute as your favorite game of the season as well?
Actually, no. My favorite match of the season involved a little bit of Messi magic. It was on decision day against the New England Revolution, where Messi came on in the second half and he scored a hat trick and got an assist. The first player to ever do that in the MLS. Absolutely ridiculous. Messi, just ever since he came to the league, he's just broken record after record. He's brilliant to watch, of course. I mean, he's the GOAT.
Yeah, for my favorite game, I got to give some credit to New York Red Bulls, who did go on an incredible run to the final. And it was due to a game where they defeated the Columbus Crew, who were title contenders, in my opinion. Second game at home, second leg. Columbus ties the game in the dying moments to push it to penalties, but New York Red Bulls pulls the result out. I thought that showed a lot of tenacity, a lot of mental fortitude, and it kind of showed early signs of this run that New York Red Bulls would eventually go on.
We've just talked about the highs. What about the lows? What was your biggest disappointment of the season?
It's got to be the obvious Miami just getting knocked out in the first round against Atlanta.
Yeah.
That was so disappointing, truly, because they had broken the points record in the MLS in the regular season. Obviously, you have Messi, you have Luis Suarez, Busquets, Jordi Alba kind of going off for this team, but there's some really good youthful players, the Paraguayan Gomez, also Benjamin Kramaski. So this team had so much going for them, and they just really let Miami themselves, everybody down to lose against, honestly, a very good Atlanta United team, and I want to give them credit, but it's just so disappointing because I think we should have expected Miami to go to the final.
Yeah, I would give an honorable mention to LAFC as well as a disappointment, because I'm a big fan of the El Tráfico matchup, one of the best rivalries here in the MLS. We had that in the books. You know, that could have potentially happened in the semifinals or the final of the Western Conference Finals, and they didn't give it to us. They just didn't. They disappointed this season. They didn't have the offensive force that LA Galaxy did. So to me, LAFC, another disappointment.
Yeah, LAFC fans struggling with what happened on Saturday for sure. Okay, so he didn't win the cup, but he is MVP, Leo Messi. Are you both okay with that for MVP?
I'm cool with it.
I am cool with it.
I'm cool with it.
But I have a personal thing where I would hope you play over like 75% of the games over the course of the season. Okay. But I am overall cool with it because in the games that he did play, he completely dominated, and the numbers are absolutely ridiculous. If he had played the whole season, I think he could have gotten like 40, 45 goals. So I think, especially since he is just the greatest player of all time, in my opinion, man, I'm cool with him getting an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, the other options could have been any other LA Galaxy player. Like Gabriel Peck actually had the most goals and assists combined this year, but Ricky Puig, in my opinion, the most important player. But hindsight's 2020, because they won the title, I'm saying that. It's a regular season award. Messi was the most impactful in his appearances.
And you just talked a lot about Messi. Who wins the championship next year? Does he get it?
It's really interesting. I think a lot of this is going to come down to transfers, right? There's a lot of rumors about Miami maybe getting Neymar. I think if Neymar can get healthy, that'd be an insane get for Miami. But Messi, even in his current form at his age, he's still probably the best player in the MLS. I do think Miami could make a deep run next year. Absolutely.
It comes down, for me, it's not even their offensive additions, it's their defense.
Yeah,
they need to shore up that defense. I need to see what Polish guy they're signing from the Polish division, or just where they're looking at for defensive fortitude, because if they improve in that area, then I do think they're the favorites to eventually win the MLS Cup.
All so good. Everything's pointing in the right direction with Major League Soccer. This week, ranked second in the world for largest total attendances at matches, only behind the Premier League. MLS with 12.1 million more than, and Premier League with more than 14.5 million. So, gentlemen, you're a big part of that. You're a big part of the MLS train. Reynoso Soltero, thank you so much for your brilliant work on It's Called Soccer this season. Have a lovely Christmas, a lovely off-season, and we'll see you next year.
You too. Thanks for having
you guys.
us. Bye.
This episode of It's Called Soccer is brought to you by the Unfiltered Soccer podcast. Landon Donovan and Tim Howard are true legends of US soccer. Tim is a regular on our NBC desk, as you might know, every weekend, where he is never short of an opinion, and this is the destination to get even more. Landon's done it all, 6 MLS Cups with the Galaxy and Earthquakes, and a legacy that is unmatched in Major League Soccer. In Unfiltered Soccer with Landon Donovan and Tim Howard, these Hall of Famers bring their experience and insight straight to fans. They're covering it all. Stories from the Premier League, Major League Soccer off-season, and the road to the 2026 World Cup right here in North America. It's straight talking from two of the best players in US soccer history, and they don't hold back. If you love It's Called Soccer, you'll love Unfiltered Soccer. It's all kicking off. Follow Unfiltered Soccer on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, you can also subscribe to them on YouTube with new episodes every Tuesday morning. Welcoming in to It's Called Soccer, I think the man we have to call Mr. Soccer in America, the man with more appearances for the US men's national team, more appearances for LA Galaxy than anybody else. So therefore, the perfect person to discuss the state of soccer in this country. But first of all, were you at the Cup final? Did you see LA Galaxy win?
I was definitely at the Cup final. I couldn't miss it. It's been so long, 10 years. So yes, I was at the final. I was watching the game, watched every moment of it. It's fantastic.
What did you make of the game itself? Because especially near the end, it was getting a little stressful, wasn't it? With Red Bulls coming.
Yeah, it was definitely stressful. I would say it's one of those typical games in a championship match. You just really never know how it's going to go, how it's going to start out. Start out fantastic for the Galaxy, where you're just like, okay, well, this could end up 3-4-0, But as always, the team has the other team has the push. They get the goal back, and then to be quite honest, for the rest of the first half, Red Bulls were the team on the front foot. And even in the second half, I'd say to a degree, they were continuously on the front foot, pushing the Galaxy as much as possible. And as you both know, what does the Galaxy do? You sit back and you wait for your moments, where they had some quality chances, but just couldn't finish them.
Cobi, why has it been 10 years? Why has it eluded them the the big trophy?
I think there's a lot of changes, that come about. There's coaching changes, staff changes. And during that time, you have to get the right mix. As we all know, it's not just about what you see on the field. It's also about what you see in that front office, the decisions that are being made there, and they don't operate in silos, right? So they have to work together. And I think it took that long process of some of the top talents like Akeem and Donovan, them leaving at that time, and then changes there on the field, then changes in the front office, and then finding the right combination for them all to work well together. And I think we've finally gotten that now.
And Cobi, I think when people maybe who don't know too much about Major League Soccer think about Major League Soccer, they straight away think about LA Galaxy. They're since the beginning one of those kind of heritaged clubs in association with MLS. Then LAFC turned up and were very successful for a little bit. And when you guys won at the weekend, one of my first thoughts was, oh, this is what's so great about football when you have two teams in the same city. Because I bet it's even better now that LAFC exists than it would have been before them almost. Because of the way that they've come up and had all the fanfare and all the publicity,
you know what?
Cobi.
The win for the Galaxy, just a little bit sweeter now, right? That's what it comes down to.
Exactly.
I mean, we see it, all around the world, those derbies within the city to see who can be dominant. So there's that little bit extra of like, not only, okay, you are the champion of the league, but you're the champion of that city. And we've seen that consistently, for us at the Galaxy. I think that's very nice right now, because as you said, as LAFC came in, there was a lot of fanfare. We lost quite a few fans, that went over to the LAFC side, and now it's starting to come back, like where everyone's kind of like, oh, wait a second, that's right, the Galaxy are here, they've always been here, they're the most storied club, so now we get that rivalry really going.
Cobi, you played 15 years, or you were at 15 years coaching and playing at the LA Galaxy, but I want to ask you about that 12 months that you had in Coventry, and just talk to us about that. Just talk to us about that initial impression of playing in England, of how challenging it was, how different it was than obviously what you've been used to.
It's difficult, right? And I'm sure a lot of people, around the world, especially like the fan base, don't understand that when you're going to change things culturally. That's probably one of the biggest parts for myself. Growing up in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is, yes, it's a lot of what people see on TV, especially with the weather and everything. And then going to Coventry, coming to one of the biggest and most noted cities in the world, and then you're going to Coventry, which is a smaller city, where it's a bit colder, than Los Angeles, and then trying to adjust to all of that, adjust to a new team, adjust to a new culture. It's difficult. And in my time there, I'll tell you this, it was hard, it was frustrating at times, but it was probably one of the best learning experiences for me as a footballer, and just understanding what it takes to compete at a high level, and that where you think you've given it all, no, that's not it. You have to go more, just as far as the length of a Premier League season and the level that you have to consistently keep throughout that season if you want to stay on the field.
What about everyone receiving you? What was the treatment that an American in the 90s got? Because I can't believe it was great.
Gary could probably tell you, Yeah, exactly. Who's this soft, what's going on here? There was a lot of that, around the league. And I'll admit, there was a lot of that within the team, as well. Like, you have to prove yourself, just walking in there. And this isn't to say, oh, I want preferential treatment, because I understood, at this time, and I always talked about this with one of my good friends, Tab Ramos, that was in Spain, is that when you come into a new team or into that locker room, it's not like, okay, you're fun and you're playing a game and stuff. You're taking someone's job, and that's what people have to realize. You're taking a job. So it took me time to realize that, and then understand where maybe some of the negative was coming from. And once I got that, I was able to put that aside and then just kind of focus on myself and try to focus on my play.
How did the negative manifest itself? Did they say things to you? Was it something physical on the field? Was it the unsaid stuff? How did it manifest?
It definitely wasn't the unsaid. They were very willing to say it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, what did they say?
I can't say on this, right now. But they were calling me soft everything, calling me, this, that, and the other. It would manifest in the physical, behavior, where the extra tackles, from behind or stuff like that. If you hit a bad cross in, it was like, oh, maybe you should throw it. Get an American football and throw it instead. All those types of things. And I'm sure Gary's smiling over there. He knows what he would be saying at those times. But that's how it came about. And you get used to it after a while. You start developing relationships on the team because no matter what people think, it's even though people can do it, it's very difficult to be consistently negative all the time if there's someone that's on the team with you that's willing to go out and work. It doesn't always have to be, and this is important to understand, it doesn't have to be great like you're doing good on the field and all that. What everybody wants to see is that you're willing to go to training day in and day out and do the same work and effort that they're doing. Then that's where all that respect comes.
Cobi, you said you were called soft, and it's something that's been levelled at other American players that have come to the Premier League, fairly or unfairly. What would you say about that?
I think it's a little bit of what I said earlier, just as far as culturally, it's very different. I don't think the players are soft. It's just from a different environment, and I would say when you look at some of the players that from Europe, be it whatever stage, Europe and other countries, when they come to the U.S., they have difficulties transitioning where, I would say we're not as aggressive in saying, oh, they're soft or whatever, but there's difficulties when you're talking about the heat, that comes up where you could be in Los Angeles where it's 72 one day, the next weekend you could be in New England where it's down into the 30s, and then you're playing in Dallas or something where it's 90% humidity and 100 degrees, so I would never have said, oh, well, they're soft because they can't handle that. But the difficulties, the physical side of it is very difficult for, I just think, international players, no matter where they are going. The mental side, that was a learning process for me. This was like my first time going into a professional atmosphere within England. And England's very different than any other country that you're playing in. And it takes time, to get into it. Now, as far as being soft, no, I don't think I was soft because, like I said, I was out there every day doing the same thing that they were doing. But that is just like one of those negative connotations they want to put on you right away to test you, to test your mental game to see if you can handle it.
Cobi, I want to take you on to your career with the national team, and in the 94 World Cup, you'll remember the game in the Rose Bowl against Colombia. I was actually in the stadium with David Beckham, my brother, and Keith Gillespie, and you came on as a sub in that tournament. And that's my piece of history, remembering you playing a World Cup in 94 in your own country. But did you think that the actual US team would be further ahead 30 years on than actually they are? Or did you think that actually this is where they would be in respect of progression?
Look, that's something that you never know. You always hope that you're continuing in these steps forward. Now, yes, we had a big issue, when it comes down to it, when you look at 18, where we didn't qualify. And I think when you don't qualify, that can actually be a step back or a stalling, so to speak, and that kind of hurt us, to be honest, because you lose, as you know, Gary, you lose a whole generation kind of players with that opportunity. So when you have that next World Cup in 2022, you have a lot of younger players as coaches make decisions and move players on. We had a lot of young players on the team in 22. So when we look at 26 going into it, I'm very hopeful because now you get the Pulisics and the Tyler Adams and all those players at that prime age, that we talk about, and then you have still young players coming in and an older side as well. So that balance is out there. Now, in comparison to 94, I think in such a short time, when you think about it, where the expectations for the U.S. team have increased, that's a positive. Where the U.S. team or the fan base says, hey, you don't get out of the round, that's not successful. That's very good just for the whole entirety of the United States. I'm thinking now that thought is, okay, you have to get out of the first round. You have to win the next game and be competitive in that following game, and look to go beyond. You do that, then that would be a comparative success of the 94 squad. That's where it comes to now for me.
That's interesting. That's really interesting because Mauricio Pochettino said quarterfinals is the aim that he wants to try and take this team to. I just feel like this, having lived here now for more than 10 years, Cobi, and I have an 8-year-old boy who's in youth soccer, and my goodness, we could do a whole series of podcasts on youth soccer. But I know. It's a whole nother world that I never knew existed. But I feel like it should be further on with the wealth, with the facilities, with the number of people. In some ways, this country is too big for its own good. It kind of gets in its own way so much. But I just believe, as an outsider looking in, maybe I'm too harsh, Cobi, but I feel like they should be further along. So 94, when you were there, I just wonder whether if I'd said to you in 94 that this is where they'd be, trying to get to the quarters, which would be brilliant, you'd have thought, oh, I hope they're a bit further along than that. Do you feel like they've missed a lot of steps along the way?
Yes, without a doubt. And like I said, I think with the, not qualifying for a World Cup, that's a step back. Going through the process of changing so many coaches over a short period of time, I think that's a detriment, to the club. And going into youth soccer, just I think the pay-to-play system, that we have here, I think that hurts as well. Look, I think a national team, that's always the hope, and it's like the point, of the spear. You never know, if it's going to hit the mark or not. I always bring this up. I look at, 98, France wins the World Cup. 2002, they're out in the first round. And that's where, national team success in a World Cup, you never know. You're hoping for the best, but anything can happen. Depends on the group you're in and a variety of different things. But for me, the underneath is where we've got to really shore things up. We've got to make sure that that is better and more opportunity, for players everywhere to be seen and at the higher levels, because the philosophy of, oh, we're here, they'll find us, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
But Cobi, that's impossible. I mean, this country is so big. I live in Northern California, or I don't live anywhere, near. I think I'm, an hour from Sacramento Republic. We're 2 hours from the earthquakes. There's no chance my kid gets seen by any, not that he's good enough to be a professional soccer player, but let's just pretend he was for a second. There's no chance he gets seen. There's no pathway. I think this is really important because you're right. At the top level, at that national team World Cup level, it can be a bit hit and miss depending on the players that you have. But if this country could remove the pay to play, which is never going to happen, I guess, because it's just money oozing out of people's pockets it shouldn't be oozing out of. If they removed that, they had, and soccer clubs are coming up all the time. USL clubs are coming up all the time. And they started having academies at clubs. Do you think that is the way that the underbelly of US soccer can be fixed, to remove pay to play and start doing it more around?
Look, I would love to see that, without a doubt, because the fact is yeah. You have to go where the money is, right? If it's going to be a team that doesn't have like a professional team on top of it, well, then those clubs are going to be like, okay, we got to support ourselves and we got to make a living and we got to do all those things. And then naturally it's going to be, okay, what money can we get so that the coaches, the staff, and everyone gets paid. But if you have a professional team at all the different levels, that are within the United States, then maybe there's some oversight to say, hey, can we have a quote unquote charitable side to it, or something where we allow a free to play system where the players can get in, just have a good time, the top players can play for free, and that gives you those opportunities to really up the level and have that pathway, so to speak, and then continuously build upon one another. And look, Rebecca, it really does come down to what you said, and a lot of people don't realize how big the United States is. So for us I'm in Southern California, you're in Northern California, and for me to get to you on a drive, it's going to take like 6-7 hours, so that's what we're looking at in one state. Yeah. Now try for us to get over to Florida, you're taking a 5-6 hour flight. So what works here in California is going to be very different than what works in Florida, because just it's almost, we have all these different cultures, and that's the best way for me to put it, all throughout the United States. So how do you get it to work there? How do you get it to work here? Is there a combining factor in U.S. soccer or MLS or something along those lines? I'm hopeful that they can step in and really oversee that, but we'll definitely, unfortunately, it's a wait and see aspect.
Cobi, I've been with Rebecca for the last 3 days. If you live 6 or 7 minutes away, you won't pop round and see her for a cup of coffee. So don't worry about it. You're not missing anything. Trust me, Cobi. I text someone that I knew that and I said, "What's Cobi like?" He said, "Top man. He was great with me. Always hung out, helped me a lot. Was has a lovely family, and a top man." Who is that?
Is that Bex?
Yes. So you obviously crossed over when you were obviously LA Galaxy. Just talk to us about his impact. Obviously, your relationship with him when he was there, but talk to us a little bit about his impact on obviously US
the
soccer.
impact on U.S. soccer and MLS. I don't think we can quantify it. It really did change the game, and I know. I'm not going to speak down to his player now and Messi, because he, greatest ever, the GOAT and everything. But it's along those lines. He came into this league when we were still struggling a little bit, still trying to go on the way. So he was that person that stepped into the firing line. He went out there first and foremost and really said, hey, I'm a top player. Come take a look at this league and what we're doing here. And then that really helped explode soccer, allow it to really get into the scene within the U.S. as far as not the soccer fan. I mean, that Rebecca, there's the diehard soccer fans here that have been along these lines for 30, 40, 50 years. But what David did is he brought in the fan that knew just, David, Victoria, the Beckham effect, all of this stuff, and said, hey, what's this that he's doing here? And then you're starting to draw in these new fans into the game. And I think it wasn't only fans, it was, business-wise, it was corporations, just the attention. It had worldwide attention. It had people in Europe paying attention to MLS, and that really affected, just soccer in the United States in general, but especially the MLS that allowed us to grow, to another level.
Talk to me a little bit about the football player and the person that obviously you confronted as well.
Him and his family, fantastic. The one thing that I always say is that, look, everyone always knows David Beckham. Gary, this, that it's like David Beckham, and everyone's kind of like, oh, this type of thing. He's one of the guys. He hangs out with the guys. He's a footballer. He wants to just be one of the guys and enjoy that aspect, enjoy everything with the game. He was a leader on the field out here. Really kind of brought a little bit of that European professionalism over here, raised the standards of what was going on here within MLS and especially within the Galaxy, which I was like, thank God, that he was able to do there. But yeah, he's as you said, he's a top man. Just quality all the way around, and interacted with the teammates. Like teammates, not what the outside would think that is happening. It's like he was one of the guys from, the other star players on the team to the new player who was just here his first day, maybe just getting out of college or something, and walking into that locker room and sitting next to David Beckham. It is probably a little bit hard for some of them.
Cobi, we could talk to you all day. We have to let you go. I have faith that America is going to get this right. They get everything else right pretty much. So when it comes to success. So I have faith. Thank you so much for joining us, Cobi.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cobi.
Great talking to you.
Great to speak to you. Thank you.
All right, Gary, that's about it for this week. Next week, the fruits of our labours in New York City. We have got a really special interview, haven't we, with the multi-Emmy award-winning host. He's got a lot of Emmys, as we discussed in the interview. The host of The Last Week Tonight, Liverpool fan John Oliver, joined us in Manhattan. You're going to hear that on next week's episode. You don't want to miss that. In the meantime, continue, please, to subscribe to Spotify, Apple, YouTube, everywhere that you get It's Called Soccer. Gary, 4th day in a row we spent time together. Enough is enough. I will see you next time.
I know, and we don't have any Emmys.